back for Anfield. 1-0 Burnley. Scott Anfield. He's been threatening that recently. And all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. Here's Rory now. On the outside. He's got
it! Ashley Barnes with it! What a cross from Rory! And there was Ashley Barnes! And Burnley leading the derby.
Knocks it quickly. Finds Benson in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownell. Saved by the keeper!
Burnley won it to the end! That is magnificent! They deserve that! For Nathan Teller. Oh, he's on fire at the minute. 3-0 Burnley. It's Nathan Teller's day. And Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby.
Here's Benson. Can he go on the outside? Comes inside. He's have a shot.
Oh, what a goal. Manuel Benson once more. That is top class. Burnley have done it. Fantastic. Clarence deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello everybody, welcome along to the latest episode of the Turfcast podcast pre-game show with me, Joe Redmond, ahead of a not so anticipated trip to Anfield this weekend to take on Liverpool, who are obviously going for the league title. So it's going to be a tough afternoon. I think every Burnley fan is in agreement with that one. But as you can see, as always, we're joined by a fan of the opposition, and that is Dan from the Redmen TV. How you doing, mate?
Yes, mate, I'm all good. Nice one for having me on. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for coming on, mate. I understand the Redmen's obviously a big channel, and all of you guys are very busy, so I do appreciate you coming on. Before we get started, though, I just want to remind you all this episode of the pre-game show is sponsored by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game. Green King Sport venues are showing every single televised Burnley fixture over the 23-24 season, as you well know. And with more than 900 sports pubs across the UK, it doesn't matter whether you're based in Burnley or Brighton, you can catch every single minute of the action. And a reminder, if you download the Green King Sport app, you won't just get 10% off all drinks. There's anytime a match on, but this month you'll also have thousands of pints of free Guinness to win and even a chance to check out one of 6 holidays up for grabs. But Dan, let's get into it then. Liverpool, your season so far. Obviously, so far, so good. Currently top of the Premier League table. We'll get into the big shock of Klopp leaving soon. But so far, so good. Like I said, top of the Premier League table, but City breathing down your necks at the minute. So how do you feel it's gone so far?
Yeah, I mean, better than expected, if I'm going to be brutally honest, given sort of how far off our usual standards we were last season. I don't think any sort of right-minded Liverpool fan, even the most optimistic, which is the category I probably fall into, to be honest, would have come into this campaign thinking, oh yeah, don't worry about it, like last season was a blip, we're going to be back top fighting for the Premier League, we'll get to the Carabao Cup final, the FA Cup's still on, Europa League, we'll cruise through the group and make that look relatively straightforward. I don't think anybody really knew what was going to come around the corner, to be honest, because it was such a bad season last year, and obviously such a big rebuild as well in the summer. When you look at some of the key components and the key figures that left the club, including the captain, of course, really, which was quite a surprise to everyone. So the surprises haven't stopped either on and off the pitch. But yeah, pleasantly pleased with what's been going on the pitch anyway.
Yeah, so what's your realistic expectations then? You said then you fall into the most optimistic, so I guess you're going to say quadruple, but where is it you want to see, well, your realistic expectation? Well, what would you be happy with? Is it the league? Is it maybe a cup double? What would you be happy with come the end of the season?
Yeah, I mean, the expectations have definitely shifted from the start of the campaign, as I alluded to, because I would have bitten your hand off for a good run at one domestic cups, definitely in the Europa League, given the sort of the football club that we are, the Europa League, we should be getting to sort of the latter stages of that and a comfortable top 4 finish, really. But given where we're at now, and this is early February, I'd say definitely one of the domestic cups. I think we're more than capable of winning the Europa League, and I just think we're going to push Man City all the way. Which side it ends up on, I don't really want to sort of stick my neck on the line, but I do think it does us and them right until the very death yet again.
Yeah, well, we're going to ask you about that. You're saying, obviously, you think you're going to take them to the very end. you expecting a close title race then? I think a lot of people, pundits included, are all now saying, they just expect City to go on and pretty much win every single game. But obviously went 1-0 down at Brentford last time out. All right, came through it in the end. But it's probably not going to be as simple as that for City, I don't think. Obviously with you guys, like you say, pushing them all the way.
Yeah, I certainly hope not. I mean, Manchester City have been bulletproof in the past when we've gone sort of toe-to-toe in these title races. But so have Liverpool. It just so happens that Man City have often had that edge heading into it. So it's going to be fascinating once again. I don't think, as I mentioned earlier, nobody with the right mind would have expected Liverpool to win the league. So therefore, nobody should have expected us to do it at a canter. It would almost be a fitting way for Jurgen Klopp to go out if it was to be sort of in that toe-to-toe title race with Man City. But this time we end up on the right side of it. So yeah, it's going to be close. It's going to be hard because watching Man City demolish teams from here on out is not a pleasant experience when you are waiting and begging them to drop points. But yeah, listen, I wouldn't have it any other way. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned it there. The big news over the last couple of weeks: Jurgen Klopp leaving. It came as a shock to me. I'm sure it was a shock to you as well.
Yeah, nobody saw that coming, to be honest with you. And the club did a very good job of keeping the secret for so long. One of the reasons they actually announced it when they did is because they worried that it was going to get out at some point, essentially, because obviously you have to start approaching managers and agents and potentially football clubs for the guy in their hot seat. So, yeah, it was a massive shock, massive blow as well. But there's two sides to this, of course. There's the angle that, listen, like it's like I say, it's a massive shame that we're losing somebody who's been so incredible from day one, essentially, at the football club. But then, does it add more fuel to the fire for what's to come this season potentially? Because I think a lot of our rivals are saying, "Oh well, this, that, and the other player's going to start being unrest now, and they're going to want out and all that, and they're going to take their eye off the ball." But then all the messages from the playing side has been, "Oh no, we're even more focused. We want to do it even more now because Klopp's going." So double-edged sword a little bit, but yeah, ultimately a shock and not the news anybody wanted, really.
Yeah, why do you think he's chosen now then? Why do you think he's chosen this season? There were some rumours that obviously he said a few years back if Liverpool ever did a documentary that it wouldn't be around for that. And then, I just think that's a bit of a coincidence myself. I don't know. But why do you think now? Do you just think he fancies a new challenge?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of that. I do believe him when he says he's worn out, and it's interesting because the game after he said that was the Premier League game after he said that was the Chelsea game, and he was up to his usual antics on the touchline where he's absolutely animated, 110% all the time. And I've seen some pundits and some fans saying worn out. He looks full of energy to me, but it's probably not the match days that get to him. That's probably the easy part of his job, to be honest. It's the press conference and everything else in and around it. So yeah, I buy it when he says he's just tired and he wants a bit of a break. To be fair, because as I say, he is all in on being Liverpool manager. He doesn't do things by halves, Jurgen Klopp. He never has done during his managerial career, to be honest. So I have no qualms with that. I think the documentary thing is a coincidence, like you say, and I don't think he would have agreed to it had he been sticking around, to be fair. I think it ties in nicely with the fact that they're following his final months as Liverpool manager. Had he been here for the foreseeable, maybe he would have said no, who knows, like he did previously a couple of years ago. So yeah, like I say, it's a difficult one to come to terms with, but in terms of his reasoning, I think we can all just about accept it because he has been so incredible for us.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Where do you think the job ranks that he's done then at Liverpool? Because a lot of people will obviously compare him to Pep, but I'm just talking even further down the line, the likes of Fergie and stuff like that, and Wenger as well. Like, in terms of the Premier League all-time managers, where do you think the job that he's done ranks at Liverpool?
If I'm being really honest, it's nigh on impossible to compare him to the likes of Wenger and Ferguson because of the longevity. And I don't think we're going to see that type of longevity anymore within football. It simply doesn't exist, whether that be because of the strain and the intensity that the game is played at and the sheer amount of football in the calendar now. And obviously, we've got a bit of a hire and culture at a lot of clubs now as well. So you're not going to see, I don't think we're going to see that type of tenure at a football club anymore, to be honest. So difficult to compare to those two, albeit I think in terms of like day to day and the job he's actually done, it probably does about stack up. In terms of Pep, I'm obviously very biased. It's also very difficult because of what the team's inherited, what the managers inherited. Like Jurgen Klopp's first team, it's a graphic that gets banded about seemingly on the daily, certainly on Twitter and stuff like that. It was. I'm loath to say it was a mess because there's some good footballers there and some people I've spoken to in there and they're nice people, but it wasn't a football team that was built to do anything of any sort of note. Let's put it that way. And Jurgen Klopp took a lot of those lads and made them into superstars, and he added to them, built on it, and just an incredible job. Whereas Pep Guardiola has had somewhat of a luxury in so much as he can spend 50, 60, 70 million on a footballer and it not necessarily work. And he just goes and does it again. So they're playing with two different hands, let's put it that way, Klopp and Pep. But in terms of jobs done, I think they've both done incredible jobs. I think Klopp, for me, has done the better one because of the restrictions he's had placed on himself and the stuff he's not been able to do in the transfer market and stuff like that.
Yeah, interesting. I know you said earlier that a lot of the players have come out and said the right things now rather than not taking their eye off the ball. But obviously you must be worried as well that, your bigger stars like Van Dijk and Salah, especially Salah, because there's been a lot of rumours about Salah potentially leaving at the same time. Is that a worry for next season?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was a worry last summer, to be honest with you as well, I must admit. Because when you start hearing the types of figures that you're hearing from a club transfer fee standpoint, as well as a wages standpoint, you just think, can FSG, Liverpool's owners, can they turn that down? Can Salah turn that down? You do get to a point whereby it is just too good to be true, essentially, some of the figures. But yeah, I think in terms of this summer, it's even more concerning because albeit some of his individual performances haven't been at the very top of his level, I would say his numbers just remain consummate. They remain just inevitable, essentially, Mohamed Salah. He is just that guy, like he really is. So, yeah, it'd be a huge, huge blow to lose him whenever that happens. And there is more reports now of Saudi clubs sniffing around him. And I think, although the Saudi Pro League hasn't quite turned out to be what many might have expected, like even beyond Neymar, beyond Cristiano Ronaldo, Mohamed Salah would be the poster boy for that league.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
It does feel like that's almost inevitable as well, to be honest. And from a Liverpool point of view, like he's going to be 32, he's going to have a year left on his contract. Do you go again with him and give him a new deal? The way FSG work, probably not. Therefore, do you cash in and get your 150, 200 million? It's hard to say, but probably at the same time.
I don't know if this is too soon, so apologies if it is. You've probably not even got over the news that Klopp's leaving, but obviously somebody's got to come in the summer. Is there anyone that you and the guys at Redmen TV have been earmarking already for somebody to come in?
We've had a few arguments about it, if that's any good to you. Unai Emery was one that was debated hotly this week. It's Xabi Alonso. It just is Xabi Alonso. And I know his CV it doesn't stack up right now. It could do in a few months' time, by the way, if he's got a Bundesliga and a German Cup and potentially Europa League under his belt as well. But it's just Xabi Alonso. I think my main sort of point on Xabi Alonso is that he looked brilliant, by the way, in terms of what he's doing right now and the job he's done and all that. But I'm terrified that he could be the next great manager. And if Liverpool don't do it when we have the opportunity this summer, he ends up at Real Madrid or Bayern Munich, and he is that good, and we've missed the boat. I'd rather take a bit of a risk on somebody who's young. He gets the club. He's been at the club. There's a bond there, of course. So that's all good. But I'd just rather, like I say, take that punt. And if he doesn't turn out to be what we needed or what we wanted, fine. But if he does, but he does it at Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, that's a world I don't want to live in, to be honest.
I agree. I think it just makes sense. Like you said, he's been at the club before. It is an up-and-coming manager. And it was a bit of a risk with Klopp as well. I know he'd done well at Dortmund, but it was a bit of a risk there. So
any appointment to risk. Any appointment
exactly
to
that.
risk.
Exactly that, yeah. Anyway, looking ahead to injuries and stuff like that, looking ahead to the game, obviously, we've already spoken about Mo Salah. He's obviously got a bit of a knock at the minute, but I was obviously just doing some research before we started, and there is some talk that he could be starting this weekend.
Yeah, interesting one, that really. The talk stemmed from his own sort of personal social media accounts, to be honest, because the club have been very tight-lipped on it. There's been no word whatsoever from any of the journos about where he's at in terms of time frame. I know his agent was the last one to give any sort of update, really. And even that would mean he's not quite ready for now. It'd be maybe another week, maybe the Brentford game for Liverpool next weekend, potentially. But yeah, the Salah one's, it's quiet on that front, I'd say. But as I mentioned, last week on Instagram, he was running. This week on Instagram, he was doing the splits. And I know if I got into that position, I probably I'll never get up, to be honest. So
I'm not as well.
Yeah, his hamstring looked okay on that picture, but that's not an expert view.
Yeah, fair enough. Any more injuries, suspensions that we need to know about?
Well, Ibu Konate will miss the game because he was sent off against Arsenal, 2 yellows. So that's his 1 match suspension, which will be this game. And Dominic Szoboszlai, there's contrasting reports on his hamstring problem, to be honest. But I'd be amazed if he was available for this one, which is a big blow to Liverpool because he absolutely hit the ground running when he came in. So his absence, and I imagine he will definitely be absent for it, would be a big, big blow. In terms of coming back, Wataru Endo is back now from Asian Cup duty. He might feature, which kind of frees up Alexis McAllister to potentially play a little bit further
Yeah.
forwards. And I think that's about it. I think other than that, Thiago came back last weekend against Arsenal as well, which is just wonderful to see. But yeah, I think we're pretty much okay other than those.
Yeah, what's the situation with Thiago then? Do you think he'll be starting, or do you think that's just eased back in, obviously, the amount of time he's had out?
Yeah, the ultimate luxury player, I think, for me, Thiago, in so much
Yeah.
as if you need him, you can drop him into games here and there, but I'd be wrapping him up in cotton wool for like 80-90% of football between now and the end of the season. And then if you think you need to see out a game or you need a game changer potentially, drop him into it, I would say, because he's that good. He's been there, he's seen it, he's won man of the matches in Champions League finals, all that type of stuff. If you just need that extra bit of experience, that extra bit of class as well, to be honest with you, have him at your disposal. But I don't think he's going to start many matches, to be honest. And I should have mentioned Conor Bradley as well. He's obviously on compassionate leave at the moment. He lost his father, which is a massive shame because he's been outstanding since he came into the team, to be fair. Not quite sure if he'll be back yet. He can take as long as he needs, in the words of Jurgen Klopp. And Kostas Tsimikas as well is another one who's getting closer but won't be ready for this.
Yep, fair enough. As well, no, I want to talk about Anfield and obviously the redevelopment, because it's a bit of a big story this weekend, isn't it, for you guys? Like, normally it would just be a case of Burnley at home, procession win, apart from that one time when there were no fans there. But obviously this time it's a bit different. Obviously you've been redeveloping. Forgive me the name. I don't know the name of the stand, but the one along the side. Yeah, the Anfield Road stand. Yeah. The one along the side. It looked absolutely huge, doesn't it? It really, really does. And obviously the away end as well. That's recently been done up as well, within the last year or two. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, because the view wasn't great for that. And I sometimes didn't really like, because if you get at the front row at Anfield or within the front, I'd love it. But then the sun would be in your eyes because it's set behind the Kop, and I'd be like that all game. But then if you get further back, you can barely see the pitch and you're cramped in. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it's like. But obviously the main story for you guys, it's going to be your record attendance in the Premier League, isn't it? You're with the new stand, the Anfield Road end, like you say, 60k you're expecting? Or is it a little bit more than that? 60k,
60, yeah, that's right, yeah. And I think there's a few more that haven't been included in that as well. They'll come a little bit further down the line, to be fair. But yeah, it's been sort of a gradual reopening of that stand this season. Earlier on the season, it was basically all shut, the top tier. It was the away end, as you say, and a little bit of the bottom tier was home. But they reopened a little bit at the top. Did like an event quite recently with Jurgen Klopp was at, which was brilliant. And now, like, the middle section of that is open as well, which is an extra 3,000 on top of what's been there recently. So yeah, it's really good. You know, for all the criticism Liverpool's owners have had down the years, and rightly so, some of their decision making has been poor. Not so much in the transfer market. I steer clear of that sort of chat. But in terms of what they've done, in terms of furloughing staff during COVID and that type of thing, Super League being the big one in all of this, of course, they've come in for some criticism. But in terms of what they've done at the stadium and the training ground and stuff like that, you mentioned the main stand there a minute ago, like, they've done some really good work, and this is just another example of that.
Yeah, so the main stand then, which is the one on the right-hand side of the away end, has that been open for a while now then?
Yeah, that's been a few years now, that one. Yeah, that's incredible as well, I must admit.
Yeah, I remember that one being done. There was a guy on my Snapchat working on it, and he'd always put videos of just the view from Liverpool, the view from the top of Liverpool. It just looks incredible. But obviously, important that you've finally been able to redevelop Anfield, because obviously Arsenal have now got the shiny, well, not so shiny anymore, but you know, a big new stadium, Spurs, and now it's United kind of being left behind, isn't it? Because Old Trafford's falling down, sort of thing. So you must be happy that, you know, like you said, the owners have been able to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and listen, I think we'd all be equally as happy with a shiny new striker or shiny new signing every summer, wouldn't we? But you're right. Ultimately, you know, it's the stadium itself which holds all the history of the football club, and that's what we saw. That will be a constant. That will be there forever, we all hope. And we're very proud of Anfield, and certainly the atmosphere it can create, and as I say, the memories it holds. So improving that and developing that is imperative, because as you mentioned there, you know, we all poke fun at Manchester United, but Old Trafford is a coliseum within itself, isn't it? And that also holds similar memories, as much as painful it is to say. And the fact that it's sort of decrepit now and falling down, and you get pissed right through when you're stood there, like, that isn't good. And although hilarious, that isn't right either. You know what I mean? So yeah, the owners have done a brilliant job at Anfield. It has to be said.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Moving on then, more to talk about the game, and we'll have a quick chat about Burnley first as well, because obviously Burnley were in the Premier League for such a long time, and despite, you know, finishing 7th, finishing 10th a couple of times, they never really were seen as a team that, a team that would always get criticism, normally because of the way they played under Sean Dyche. So a lot, and Klopp were obviously one of the ones that had criticised Burnley quite a lot for that style of play, actually, which is quite interesting now, because obviously Dyche is like Klopp's Merseyside rival, which is interesting. But they've tried to do something different now, not working so much this season, but Burnley fans are trying to take a step back and look at the bigger picture with some of the young lads that we've got coming in, accepting relegation now. I think it's fair to say 99.9% of the fan base, but try to do something different by bringing in a young and hungry manager who's obviously a well-known name in Vincent Kompany, and play in a different way and just try and change the whole ethos of the football club. But what are your thoughts on the way Burnley are trying to do it and how much they've changed from that Dyche era?
Yeah, I mean, the change is massive, isn't it? It's polar opposites, quite frankly, from what you were trying to do. Just in terms of your signings as well, and sort of the mantra around the football club. You mentioned style of play there. That's obviously a big change. It's far removed from what Sean Dyche was all about. But I'd say the type of player that you sign and sort of the profile is a completely different fit now. And it's admirable in one sense. I was curious, and you've just said it there, like, you're kind of at ease. You've come to terms with the fact that you could be going down, and you're quite not happy, because that's never a good thing. But like, in terms of, you can see the plan and the fact that you're gonna play this way, and it won't always be effective. And it's an interesting one, because I did wonder when Burnley came up. I remember Vincent Kompany at the start of the season, probably before the Man City game, curtain raiser, saying, "Oh, we've got aspirations of getting Europa League and finishing top 7, top half of the table, and all that." And I was a bit like, you absolutely walked the Championship, absolutely walked it. But to carry on playing that brand of football in the Premier League, where everyone plays that brand of football, is not going to be easy. And that's obviously how it's turned out. And I did wonder whether there'd be a turning point, whether the fan base, the ownership, would sort of turn on Kompany, because at some point, do you need results? And does it matter what style of football you're playing if you're getting beat nigh on every week? I was really curious by that. But, it's testament to the ownership and indeed the fan base that you look like you're willing to stick by Kompany and stick by his style, his philosophy, and give it time, because, you don't want to become Norwich and become a yo-yo club perennially up and down. That's not the plan. But if you can go down this time, let's just say, if you do, and you can keep the sort of same core, the same mantra, the same style, and go again, at some point, does that become Brighton? Does that become, not so much Brentford now, but does that become a side that can fight in the Premier League? Quite possibly. And as I say, it's admirable. Just hopefully it doesn't work this weekend.
I do think that is the thinking, though. I do think that is the thinking. Just go down and stick with him, stick with his style, keep with the mantra, keep with that philosophy, and hopefully, like you say, eventually we do turn into a Brentford or a Brighton. But it's interesting, though, because when we were 2-0 down early on against Fulham this weekend, you could kind of feel the crowd turning a little bit. Yeah, it was starting to get. Even I was like sitting there saying, I don't understand why he's chosen these players for that. And even on my video after the match, I was criticising the team selection, which is not something I usually do. So we need to see fight. We don't mind going down, because, like I said, we've accepted it now. But 2-0 down at home to Fulham, like, no disrespect to Fulham, but we're just giving the goals away again, like we have been doing all season, which hopefully won't be happening this weekend. But obviously, getting onto the game this weekend, then how are you expecting Liverpool to set up? Obviously, you have your style of play, you have your high press and stuff like that. You're expecting just to get in our faces early on and try and put the game to bed within the first 10-15 minutes, really.
Yeah, ideally, obviously, that kind of always the plan. Liverpool have been sort of, a much better second half team, to be honest with you, than first half this season. It's been an interesting sort of shift in dynamic. And often at times, our subs have been what's changed the game, to be fair, because we've been in games for the most part, but we've gone down a lot. I mean, the Fulham game is the one that springs to mind, because we were 3-1 down, heading into sort of the final embers of that, and all of a sudden we turn it around with help from some subs, with help from Trent going into midfield. But I do think, Liverpool's kryptonite for a long time was like a Sean Dyche Burnley and teams of that ilk that play in that way. They come to Anfield, they put 10 men behind the ball, and they just low block it and try and get away with it. We really struggled to break them down for a long time. So a Burnley side now that, with all due respect, doesn't have the quality of a Liverpool side, looking to come to Anfield and play a little bit, that feels like it plays right into our hands. It might not play out that way, but it does feel very suited to us, to be honest with you. So I don't imagine we'll shift from what we do sort of week in, week out. And we've had a slight change recently with Bradley's inclusion of right back. He plays more of like a natural fullback, bombing on type role, whereas Trent comes in a little bit more and does the midfield stuff. So we might need to sort of revert back to type a touch. But yeah, I don't see us shifting too far away from what's been pretty successful so far.
Yeah, and why not? It's interesting that you do say that. A lot of fans have come on the pre-game show because it's something I do every week where I get a fan of the opposition on, and they've all said you playing in your style is going to play into our hands. But yet every single week we just continue to do the same thing. But like you said, it's a mantra now, and it's going to be something that we do next season. And I do think we walk the championship again next season, but that's a different debate and one that I'm sure we'll have a lot in the summer. I will get your predictions in a second, but before we do, I just want to remind you all that Burnley's sleeve sponsor for the 23-24 season are about to unveil something special. The limited edition Burnley FC Uphold card set to launch soon. You can easily add funds to your card and unlock its perks, whether you're spending at home or away. The card lets you spend in any currency anywhere in the world. It's accepted everywhere MasterCard is, without foreign transaction fees, and offers competitive exchange rate for added ease and security. You can pay with Apple or Google Play. Uphold values its community as well, demonstrated by their pledge to donate £5 to Burnley in the community with your first purchase using the card. Secure your spots on the waiting list today at www.uphold.com/Burnley FC. Terms and conditions obviously apply. Right then, Dan, predictions. And it's interesting because the amount of times I ask people predictions and they go, well, I don't want to say it because I'm on a Burnley show. I'm predicting like 4-5-1 to you guys, probably even nil. I'm interested to see how we get on now with the new lads. It depends on the team that company selects. And obviously, we're recording this on Wednesday, so I'm not sure on the updates of the injured Jordan Bayer and the injured Charlie Taylor, which company will probably tell us all about tomorrow, or as usual, we'll be tight-lipped and say absolutely nothing about. So it'd be interesting. If Charlie's there and the new lad's there, or Jordan Bayer's there, we will probably be a little bit better and maybe lose 2 or 3-0 rather than 4 or 5. But it's going to be interesting. But what sort of result are you expecting for Liverpool?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I would sort of hedge my bets a little bit more and go for that sort of 2 or 3-0 scoreline, to be fair. And I think there's a little bit of beware of the wounded animal here from a Burnley point of view, because of what happened to Liverpool at Arsenal. Yeah, that's not ideal for Burnley, I would say. And from a defensive standpoint, more than anything, to be fair, not so much we're going to sort of rack up a cricket score and just go nuts in the goal scoring department. But I think with Virgil van Dijk and Alisson Becker in particular, feeling a little bit embarrassed by what happened at the Emirates, I think a clean sheet is absolutely first and foremost in a lot of their minds. So I think scoring could be more difficult than anything else, to be fair. But yeah, I think probably a 3-0, because we haven't been, and I wonder whether this is because we are still going through all 4 competitions, we haven't been going sort of full tilt 100% for 90 odd minutes very often. It seems very rare that Liverpool do that. So I'm not saying we're going to keep you at arm's length and just play with you for a little bit, but I do wonder if it gets to sort of 2-3-0, you might see some changes from Liverpool. There's more rotation as opposed to go for the throat type thing. So yeah, I think decent game of football, but I do hope and think we will get the better of you.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I doubt there'll be many Burnley fans that will sit there with a straight face and say, I think we will win this weekend. I think at the very best we can hope for is a draw, and that would be an absolute miracle. I agree with you. I'm thinking probably a 2-0, 3-0. Potentially we might get a goal because obviously Fofana's come in and done very well. And I'd like to see company try something different this weekend. And this might sound ridiculous to Burnley fans listening, and I'm sure I'll get some stick for this, but I would actually play Fofana a bit higher up and have Foster dropping deep in like a 10, because Amdouni's not been playing very well in the 10. Then I've got obviously Odebear on the left and somebody on the right. I haven't decided yet. Probably Goodmanson. But yeah, we'll see. So it's interesting because Foster's been our main striker in the 9, but he looked at the weekend like one of the players that wants to drive into the box, whereas Foster's always coming deep and trying to link up play. So I just think that would suit very well. But it'd be interesting because anything that I ever suggest, company never does. Obviously, I just don't have on the same page as well. So, and because of his good performance at the weekend, knowing company, it'll probably drop him as well. But interesting to see what he does. But Dan, thank you very much for coming on the show. Before I do wrap everything up, I'll just give you the chance to let everyone know where they can find you and Redmen TV.
Yes, mate, absolutely. Nice one again. Much appreciated. Myself, Dan_club on Twitter, or X, still Twitter to me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Twitter, definitely Twitter.
And yeah, it's just Twitter. And the Redmen TV everywhere. You put the Redmen TV into something, you'll find us. YouTube, socials, etc., etc. We are all over the place. Yeah,
I definitely recommend checking out the Redmen TV. The Redmen TV are one of the top 4 or 5 channels. There's a few out there. The Redmen TV are definitely one of them. One of the ones that channels like myself look at for inspiration. But Dan, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, I appreciate you busy. Good luck for the rest of the season, just after Saturday.
Yeah, I thought so. Nice one, mate.